The history of Koinonia really started in November 1971 when Belmont hired a minister from Houston, Texas by the name of Jim Bevis. Jim came to Nashville. Several of us had known Jim. He had started a program in the Churches of Christ called Christian Evangelism, which was a counterpart of Campus Crusade. Several of us knew Jim Bevis, but Jim Bevis moved to Nashville to work with Don and the Belmont Church, and his title, I think, was Director of Inner City Ministries. Jim had been a youth minister. He had been an education director. He had been a man who had touched or become in contact with a lot of people in the Churches of Christ. And after Jim got here, 16th Avenue South at that time was still heavily involved in the drug scene. A couple of well-known musicians who had, and I won't call their names, had reached national acclaim because of songs that they had written living in this neighborhood. But Jim saw the need for us to be able to reach out to these people more than we were doing in a conventional way through church. And he had the idea of maybe let's start a coffee house. And that's what we were going to do. It'd be a place where people could come and sit down and drink a Coke or a coffee and just visit and have some fellowship. It would not be attuned to a church setting. It would be a place where freedom could flow and people would feel comfortable from all walks of life. About mid-1972, Jim was in the airport in Atlanta, and he ran into an old friend of his by the name of Tom McGehee, who lived in Jacksonville, Florida. Tom was the president of Higley Publishing Company, and they were Christian book publishers, primarily geared toward, again, the Churches of Christ. But Jim was relaying to Tom that he would like to start a coffee house in Nashville, but we didn't have funds. And Tom told him, he says, well, this is real interesting because I have a foundation, and I have been toying with the idea of maybe taking some of this foundation money and putting it in some local situations and starting some bookstores to see how it would work. Of course, again, his ultimate goal would be that he could sell books. But Jim thought about that and got back to Nashville, and he called Tom and says, Tom, you know, why don't you experiment with us? So as a result of that, Jim Bevis talked Tom McGehee, or either he opened his heart to him and gave him $5,000 with another $5,000 on loan so we could buy inventory. Well, in the process, in the summer of '72, Jim began to talk with several of us, and he pulled together a board, which was myself, John Acuff, an attorney who had lived in Nashville but had moved to Cookeville, Tennessee, and Dr. George Andrews, Don Finto, and Mamie Mason. So as a result of this pulling us together and getting us $10,000, we found the location, which is now Doc's Catering Service. And we opened up there, really opened the doors in October of 1972 with an official opening in November of '72. Our emphasis was going to be on books and street people, a place they could gather. The music the Lord gave us, because that was not the intent when we started. Packed out every Saturday night. You could get out and you see buses from Lebanon and Fayetteville and Lewisburg and Cookeville and Clarksville, and these kids were coming from all over Middle Tennessee.